Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Have you ever wondered how you can go from a cutting to a rooted cutting to a cell-ready plant of the green giant arborvitae in just about 1.5 to 2 growing seasons? Well, on today's video, Green Giant Propagation Part 2, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it and what the next steps are. So I hope you enjoy this video today, and thanks for being here, and thanks for being a part of our channel, and thanks for watching. So here are 2 trays of green giant cuttings and green giant rooted cuttings. And these are the cuttings that I did on part 1 of this video, where I went over and just cut the tops out, cut some branches off, and went and just stuck them down into my sand and pine bark mixture. And if you want to go back and look at that, feel free. It's on the previous video, or 2 videos ago now, I think. And this is a pan, a tray, whatever you call it, of cuttings that I did this with at the same time last year. So in January or February or whatever it was last year, these cuttings were stuck into this tray, and I haven't done a thing to them since, and they've been sitting here for a year. So what I want to do today is show you how to deal with these and how to get these out of here, because I don't know how many of these there are in here. Just glancing, I'm going to say there's 30 or 40 in here, but I'm really not sure. I'm going to take these out of this mixture and prepare them for their next step, and this is what I want to show you today. So I'm going to start getting these green giants out of here now. This is a dish pan that I've had for several years, and it seems like it's getting rickety. It's got some cracks in it, and these cheap, the white dollar store dish pans that I typically use, they're only good for 1 or 2 seasons. Just the sun just fries them, makes them brittle, and they have just break down due to UV and whatever. But this pan I've had for quite a while, but it's starting to break down. So anyway, I may destroy this pan trying to take these out, but I don't really care, and that it doesn't matter. So first of all, I want to see if I can dump this whole thing out of here, because sometimes you can just kind of loosen up the bottom and kind of, that pan's just falling apart on me, but you can kind of just dump the whole thing out like that. That actually worked pretty good. So I didn't have to tear the pan up, even though I won't be using it again, because it's just, lifespan is kind of spent. And here's what you have. So just let me say a couple things that are going on here. So you get leaves in here that have just fallen in from previous seasons. You get some weeds that grow in here, a few. You have some cuttings in here that just didn't make it. And through the season, just when I check on these, and if I see these, I'll pull them out. But that's just one that didn't make it. And, you know, half of them may not make it, or 20% may not make it. But I just want to show you what you can expect. And again, this is the same mixture that I showed you last time. It's just a sand and pine bark mixture. That's all it is. And these cuttings in this mixture are really easy to pull out. So you just kind of shake them out, and here's what you have. I mean, that looks kind of pathetic, but that is a baby green giant arborvitae rooted cutting. So they will vary some to the size of their roots, kind of the quality of how they look, but that's a really nice green giant rooted cutting. So I'm just going to go through this and just kind of pull these out of here. Now, one of the really cool things about this, about using sand and kind of a light mixture like this that drains well, like I showed you, is that these plants are not going to be all tangled up together. Now, some plants you don't want to root like this, but arborvitaes come apart really well when you just pack a whole bunch of them into a pan like that. In fact, here's a picture from a wholesale nursery. I believe this nursery is in Wisconsin, and they grow hundreds and hundreds of thousands of arborvitaes every year, and they grow them on a large scale. They use the same type of technique on a very large scale to root thousands and thousands of arborvitaes to make rooted cuttings just like these. And anyway, just to kind of show you that this is a legitimate way to do it, that it's a common way to do it, and it works really, really well. You can also root these in individual cell trays, like the 72 or 50 count cell trays if you want to do that. It just depends on what you're going to do with them long term, on how you might propagate them. But this is a simple way to do it, and it works. So I'm just going to start pulling some of these out, and there you can see they come loose from each other pretty well, and you can just kind of shake them up a little bit. They're not overly fragile. I mean, you don't want to just go ripping them out of here, but these really, got a few weeds in there, and don't worry about those at all. There's a few dead ones, couple more dead ones there, and all those is in the way. Those aren't a nuisance, and they don't matter. Just get them out of the way, and you can just shake these off one after another after another. Now, what you don't want to do what you don't want to do is leave these cuttings in this pan for another season, especially a plant like green giants. Green giants grow really fast. And if I just left these sitting in here and didn't do anything with them, I put a little bit of slow release fertilizer on them because there's obviously no nutrition in that pan and just sand. But if I just left these alone, these things would start growing, and they'd be a foot and a half tall by the middle of the summer, and they would become a matted up mess in there. They would kind of choke each other out. That is not what you want to do with them. Have them in there long enough to get them rooted, and once they go dormant, anytime they're dormant, you can pull them out without damaging them. So just one of those things that's worth knowing. So some plants you would not want to do this, you know, in a dish pan with, or where you're just packing a bunch of them in a single container. For example, the spirea is just a real common shrub, and I tried to do this with spireas one time, and just the way that they root, they grow a much more dense root system, and the whole pan was solid, full of roots, and I could not even get them pulled apart. And I only salvaged, you know, out of 50 or 60 or whatever, I probably only was able to salvage 10 of them, even though they were pretty much all really well rooted. But I can just tell you that arborvitaes do extremely well like this. And I mean, I guess the proof is in the cuttings, in the rooted cuttings. But they do really well, and it's an easy way to do it. You can use any kind of container. You can make your own container. If you got scrap lumber laying around, I know lumber's expensive, but you can nail together, you know, 1x4s or something into frames, any size you want. You can make them huge, you can make them small, whatever you can manage. But just any size container that will hold your sand mixture is awesome. Now, these seem to be a little bit more matted up here. So I'm just gonna gently kind of shake those and loosen that dirt up. And just kind of pull them out one by one by one, and it's no problem at all. And these are actually very uniform in size. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Maybe as the seasons go by, I'm getting a little better. That one's got a big root wrapped around it, but no problem. So we'll just keep, now that one's kind of poor looking there. That's a really small root system and a small little rooted cutting, but it will live. It probably won't grow as fast as the others, but it will live, and we will definitely keep it. So that's a really nice one there. Nice big long roots. More nice big long roots. Look at that. It's just really a good one. There's another dead one. I'm just going to keep pulling these out, and we'll see how many we've got. I think I'm maybe 30 or more here at this point. Doing really well. Just keep pulling them out, and you can see these are not tangled at all. Shaking those off, and then I'm going to take this, well, let's kind of look and make sure. Every now and then you can bury one in there. No, looks pretty clean. Get some of those weeds and trash out. And I'm going to take all of that and just put it back in this pan. Even though the pan's broken, I can just use all this over again. You don't really use it up. That's going to fall apart if I do that. But I'm going to take this sand and put it in some other container, because this container is garbage now. But just that sand and bark mixture drains really well. It's ready to be used again. Let's see what we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. All right. So we got 33 33 green giant rooted cuttings. Now, let me show you what the next step is. So a couple of things here I want to show you. As I'm digging these rooted cuttings out, I kind of have two extremes here that I want to show you. This is kind of one of the more pathetic looking ones right here. Now, it's perfectly healthy, it's perfectly fine. It's just really small, not really well rooted. And who knows why? Maybe it's because it's from a smaller piece. You know, maybe my actual original cutting was smaller. I really don't know. You can see where I originally cut it right there at my fingertip. But anyway, so you've got one like this, and you got a really well-rooted cutting like this. Now, if you can figure out how to produce lots and lots and lots and lots of rooted cuttings that look like that, you could sell those wholesale just like that for $1.25, $1.50, something like that. That'd be a really nice plant, and you could produce them by the thousands, tens of thousands, whatever, and people would love to buy that from you right there. Well, that's certainly not what I'm doing. So I'm producing rooted cuttings, all shapes and sizes, for my own growth and for my own production. So here's what I would do with these two cuttings. So this is a little 3 or 3.5 inch pot, whatever it is, and this little emerald green here is about 12 inches tall. It may be 14 inches tall. Last year, this was one of these pathetic rooted cuttings. I took the rooted cuttings that I had that were really small, not well developed, and I potted them in these small pots. I've got quite a few of these, and they've grown to this in one growing season. So from rooted cutting to this, or really from pathetic rooted cutting to this in one growing season. So now, this spring or really any time, I could take this plant, pot it into one of my normal trade gallon pots, and this is ready to sell probably by early summer, midsummer, something like that. It's going to fill in a trade gallon pot in no time, and that'd be a good way to use that. All right, and this is the big rooted cutting. I just showed you this big cutting. I took these and planted them in the ground. The ground is going to be a little bit less gentle environment for those little tiny rooted cuttings. You might do okay with them in the ground, I don't know, but one like this is going to thrive in the ground. And in one growing season, I put these in the ground this time last season, and it went from this to this in one growing season. I just dug this one up to show you as an example. So that one rooted cutting has grown from, the thing is 24 inches tall, and that's the actual tree height, not counting the root ball. It's 24 inches tall. It's a 2-foot tall tree in one growing season following its season of propagation. That plant is ready to stick in a trade gallon pot. It'll root into that pot in no time as soon as the weather warms up, and it'll be ready to sell immediately. You won't have to wait till mid or late summer. It'll be ready to sell in March or April. And it's just a really nice plant and really a good example of what you can do and how fast these things will grow in one season. From this to this in a season, from this to this in a season, and you know, you could leave this in the ground for another season, and by this time next year, this thing would be this tall and it'd be worth $12 or $15 or more. And or I could take this plant, shred it up, and have another 15 cuttings or so off of this. And it's just, there's just kind of a lot of things that you can do with it as far as how you're going to figure out how to turn it into a profitable thing. So listen, I hope this is helpful to you today. Here's a couple other videos that I'd love for you to check out that are right over here that just have to do with growing plants in your backyard. And if you just take a minute to check those out, that would be awesome. And besides that, guys, I appreciate y'all watching today. I love y'all, and y'all have a good day. I'll see you on the next one.